Hello everybody, this is Jacob from Perfect Circuit.
And I'm Mario from Elektron.
And today we're going to be playing with the Digitone.
The Digitone has a new update, 1.32, and this update includes some UI improvements and some new features that bring this device up to line with the Digitakt. These new improvements give you a new degree of control when using the Digitone as a groovebox and controlling FM synthesis. The Digitone 1.32 firmware update comes with a ton of UI improvements. As you can see here in the LFO page, you now could see the waveform that you're choosing and then also representation of the start phase of the actual waveform. There's also the ability to see the bipolarity on each of these parameters here, like the speed and the depth. So it just gives you a better representation of if you're giving it a negative or a positive value. And now the LFO pages are on two separate pages, just like the Digitakt. Another UI improvement is indication that your filter is turned off. So as you can see here, the dotted line is representing that there's no filter on the actual filter page. And when I change the type, you could start seeing it being represented there. There was also another addition to the filter page. On filter page 2, they added a filter envelope delay, which is gonna affect the timing of your envelope depth. And you could see here being visually represented, and you could also control that by holding function and changing the envelope delay. These UI improvements just make it a lot more easier to visualize the sound, see what you're doing, so you can focus on making music. Another great OS update is gonna be the remember sub page function. So if I go into settings, go down into system, this feature is extremely helpful when you want to be able to go jump back and forth from two different parameter pages without changing your spot. So if I want to change the frequency on one page, but then also be able to change the delay send and reverb send, I could jump back between the two parameter pages and I always know where they're going to be. Included in this firmware update are some bug fixes and also some quality of life improvements. For example, you could change the OLED and LED brightness settings. Here, if you go to System, and right here, LED intensity, the different levels, max, mid, and low. This is a great feature if you're jamming at a club or if you're jamming late night in your room and you don't want the bright lights to burn your eyes. And it's also a great feature for when you're recording stuff. Lower light settings look way nicer on cameras.
Favorite new features of the 1.32 firmware update for the Digitone is the ability to define global effects and mixer settings. So if we hop into the settings menu here, scroll down to global effects/mix and go in there, you can see we have the option to define global modes for the internal and external mixer, and our effects, including the chorus, delay, reverb, and overdrive settings. So if we go back out of here to our delay page, these yellow boxes here indicate that we are in global mode. So if I go to chorus and reverb, you'll see that it's still in the regular mode. What this allows you to do is have consistent settings for your effects or mixer settings across all the patterns within your currently loaded project. So this is super handy if you have a big ethereal reverb that you want to be consistent across multiple patterns, so that when you switch patterns, it doesn't just shrink down to nothing and totally lose the vibe. So on a related note to the global mixer settings, the external mixer has been expanded to support dual mono inputs. So you can have totally independent effects and level and panning controls over the left and right inputs on the Digitone. It's super handy to be able to have independent settings for your left and right input sources. And honestly, this really steps up the game for the Digitone. It allows it to be a groovebox centerpiece of a hardware-oriented setup. So you're piping in external instruments and you have independent control over how loud they are in your mix, what effects they're getting processed by, and it just makes it a nice, tidy way to incorporate a whole bunch of other external things into your setup. So for this little jam that I just did, I've busted out my guitar, I'm running it through some pedals here, and then I'm going into the left input on the Digitone. And I have a couple patterns chained together for just some different flavors of the same kind of groove, but being able to have the same effects and level settings for my guitar across both those patterns is super great and wouldn't have been possible before the new firmware update. One of my favorite little moments of this particular pattern that I have here, with the super low sub bass that's going on, I've done some sound locks to do a little turnaround at the end of every second and fourth time through the pattern. And doing this, I'm making use of the dual LFOs that the Digitone tracks have. And if I play this little trig here, you can hear I have this little like arpeggiated line going on, despite the fact that the track arpeggiator isn't even turned on. So if I hold down this trig here and hop over to the LFO pages, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. I have pretty much identical settings for the two LFOs here, but you'll notice ever so slightly that one LFO is at a faster BPM division and the other one's at a slightly slower one. And if I hold down the page values here, you'll see that one is set to a depth of -1 and the other one is a depth of -6. And by doing this, I'm able to get a sort of ascending pitch line going without the arpeggiator being on. One LFO is shifting things up by an octave and the other one is doing it by a lower interval. So combining those two together, we get it's features like this where you have such a flexible sound engine combined with the just super powered, supercharged capabilities of the Elektron sequencer that just go to show you that the Digitone is just really super sick at being a very powerful FM groovebox kind of thing.
Thanks everyone for watching this video. Let us know in the comments which new feature is your favorite. And if you're interested in more information and you want to download this OS update, check it out on elektron.se.
Meanwhile, head down to the description below to catch some links to our Signal blog, where we have some articles about the Digitone as well as FM synthesis as a whole, and a whole bunch of other neat topics regarding synthesizers. It's a real good time.
Like and subscribe.
Beautiful. And then just wave and say see you next time.
See you
Later.
next time. Bye.